A few months ago, my friend Sharky and I tried to 100% Stardew Valley in under 2 years, but we fell just short of that goal. We can officially lock in our date of completion as the 26th of spring, year 3. This is part 2 of my 2-part series where I am attempting to achieve the exact same goal, but this time I'm doing it all by myself. So if you haven't seen the first part, then I'd suggest you go and watch that one first, and maybe even leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are enjoying the series. But without further ado, let's find out how this adventure ends. We are diving right back into it, folks. No mucking around here whatsoever. We've got perfection at the forefront of our minds, and to get us back into the perfection state of mind, I began day 101 giving the wizard a birthday present. Birthdays are going to be very important for villager hearts as we head into year 2 soon, so you'll be seeing a lot of present gifting in the near future. After gathering some oak resin, I popped by Clint's to purchase some ores. In between smelting them on the farm, I paid a visit to Marnie to get a bunch of hay for my animals. This may be a perfection run, but I'll still be looking after my animals, thank you very much. The bars and oak resin went towards more kegs. Yeah, remember last time how I couldn't shut up about kegs? I will warn you now, nothing has changed. With the morning behind us, I set off to finish the mysterious Mr. Key quest. 1 battery in there, a rainbow shell up here, 10 beets into there, and finally a solar essence out here got me the casino club card. I used it to blow past Mr. Blockhead Bouncer in the Oasis shop. No, but seriously, did he just combust into the void or something? Where'd he go? Then I bought key coins with my hard-earned gold until my finger started cramping. Clearly someone wasn't too keen to sit there and gamble his way to 10,000 coins. I used them to purchase the alien rare crow from the casino shop. Then I found myself back on the farm that night, finishing off a busy first day back kegging another round of pumpkins. As soon as I left the house the next morning, I was rewarded for my dedication to finding all 8 rare crows with the deluxe scarecrow crafting recipe. The relief I felt seeing that was immeasurable. I feel like I've done Sharky and my past self proud with that one. Today's luck was on the better side, so I decided to exchange some gold for bombs from the dwarf, and after taking Pam's party bus out to the desert, I proceeded to shell shock anything that moved down in the Skull Caverns. Okay, so due to the fact that I still had Key's Hungry Challenge active, I was unable to eat while in the caverns. And after a daring attempt to complete the quest without the use of any staircases, I got sideswiped by a stupid bat. And I ran back home, tail between my legs, and I decided to forget about today. I'm more than happy to move on, so here we are on day 103. I began my day as a pack horse, relocating all of my cooking items to the newly renovated kitchen. That way I don't have to leave the house every time I want to cook something. I even popped by Pierre's to grab some cooking essentials, like sugar, wheat flour, rice, oil, and vinegar. That kind of stuff I chucked into the fridge, and then I thought I might as well tick off a few dishes. I'd been very vigilant in collecting my cooking items, and it was nice to be finally putting them to use. This saw me through to the afternoon, and I'm happy to report that I made a pretty reasonable start to the cooking collection. With nothing better to do afterwards, I popped by the Adventurers Guild and pulled up the Monster Slayer goals. I closed my eyes, waved my finger around, and it landed on Dust Brights. So Dust Brite slaying it was to be. No goals were crossed off today though, I'm afraid. However, progress was made, and progress is just as valuable. The following morning, I was blessed with more oak resin, and a lot of it thanks to my oak tree extension. In between smelting ores, I popped into town to give Granny Evelyn a birthday present, and I commissioned a shed upgrade from our favourite carpenter. In order to make so many kegs, I did have to spend more of my hard-earned gold at Clint's on copper and iron ore. But my friends, you have to spend money to make money. You'll find that in chapter 3 of Poxial's promising financial tips for prospering farmers, coming to all good bookstores near you very soon. More kegs were placed down that evening. 2 monster slayer goals were also ticked off shortly after, one for slaying my 200th bat, the other for finally slaying 500 dust sprites. I was really flaunting my skills and patience this morning. When you're waiting for a round of juicy profits though, you'd wait any amount of time, I'm sure. Unfortunately, this was the last of the pumpkins from our pumpkin growing extravaganza last season. To be honest, it's tied us over the majority of winter, which has been an absolute delight. Delightfully profitable, you could say. I ran right to Pierre's to sell off the juice I'd collected, netting us just over 250,000 gold. Cha-ching. My baller status lasted about as long as I imagine Clint lasts in the bedroom, which was a matter of seconds. Because I blew it all on 580 starfruit seeds. I will need to replace the starfruit crop tomorrow, so it was definitely a necessary investment. Now on Ginger Island, I decided to check in with the perfection tracker. 42% ain't too shabby, folks. Ain't too shabby at all. I also combined my iridium band and a lucky ring I'd picked up in the skull caverns at the forge. That way I could wear my brand new burglar's ring at the same time. I ended the day trekking through the volcano dungeon. It shouldn't be very surprising that I woke up and got to work on my starfruit harvest. That involved picking it all, which by the way was very funny to see where I had missed placing speed grow as a couple of them hadn't grown yet, and replacing it all with another round of seeds. By the time I'd done those two things, it was already 11 AM. Before heading back to the valley, I stopped by the Walnut Room to pick up the Skull Cavern Invasion quest. Let's hope I'm a little more successful this week. Professor Snail also got a quick visit from myself. I dropped off the second snake vertebrae to complete another set of fossils. And in return, I got a mango sapling. The afternoon had rolled around by the time I was warping back home. I picked up the fragments of the past special quest from the board in town. Marcelo was back in town today too. I was excited to see the Queen of Sauce cookbook. Not so excited about the fact that I was too broke to buy it. Stupid starfruit seeds. Luckily, I did have over 500 starfruit back at home, so I grabbed a few, I sold them off to Pierre, and hey, I had enough to buy the cookbook. After a quick skim of the cookbook, I learnt the remaining 15 Queen of Sauce recipes, so of course I spent the rest of the night cooking as many of those dishes as I could. I made no hesitation making my way back to Ginger Island on day 107. The dig site was the perfect place to gather some easy bone fragments for Gunther's quest. To gather the remaining bone fragments, I returned to the regular mines to slay skeletons. With the burglar's ring under my belt, I was certain that this was not going to take long. Not only did I get all of the fragments, I also ticked off the skeleton monster slayer goal. Look at me go. To wrap up the day, I found Leah in the saloon later on and gave her some goat's cheese for her birthday. It's not every day that I can say that I woke up and cracked open a meteor, but I can say that was the story this morning, so there you go. I was headed back to the mines afterwards. I spent all of 10 seconds here because I slayed a void monster and I got my next mastery level, hence why it was a very quick trip. My next mastery skill, having already picked fishing and combat, was mining mastery. I could sense that I'd have a lot of mining in my future. God, what am I, a fortune teller? Poxial, I sense a lot of mining in your future. Anyway, to have the statue of the Dwarf King will be a very handy asset to have. Speaking of mining, I returned to the mines later on to collect gold and to slay more vexing void spirits. I've said it before and I'll say it again, it's always a nice start to the day with potential profits. I collected the final round of pumpkin juice, then filled the kegs once again, this time with all of my starfruit. The pumpkin juice has been satisfactory, but all of you Stardew fanatics watching know the real big boy money starts being made when you start producing starfruit wine. Oh, the thought of it was making me as giddy as a kid in a candy store. I had to quickly ground myself before I started fainting, so I repeated yesterday's activities in the mines, collecting even more gold and slaying those pesky slimes and void spirits. My morning on day 110 began cooking a dish of squid ink ravioli, handing Clint a topaz for his birthday, and purchasing more copper and iron ore. I would say I hope this makes up for the comment I made before about how long he lasts in bed, but he doesn't know I said it, so I don't regret anything. I have to admit that the rest of my day was yet another repeat day in the mines. Collecting gold, slaying monsters, you know how it goes by now. I did visit the Adventurers Guild later that night just to make sure I wasn't going crazy and that I was actually making progress, which I was, by the way. Waiting in my mailbox the following day was the recipe for algae soup from Clint. I promptly cooked it and ticked off another recipe off the list. Because I was so close to those monster slayer goals, surprise surprise, Poxial's back in the mines, everyone. Read all about it, Stardew Valley YouTuber does something very predictable. In the mid-afternoon, I finally knocked off the grindiest monster slayer goal. The slimes were done and dusted. I collected my slime charmer ring from Gil and clocked in for another shift in the mines immediately afterwards. It took the rest of the day, but in the last fleeting hours of the day, I slayed Void Spirit number 150. Once again ticking off 2 monster slayer goals in a single day. Remember what I said last time, and when I slay hard. Day 112 not only marks the final day of winter, but the final day of year 1. To celebrate the fact, I decided to splurge all of my money at Robin's buying 8 stacks of wood. I don't think I'll have a shortage of wood anytime soon. For most of the morning, I just smelted ores into bars. I'd been hoarding all of the oak resin for the last wee while, and today was finally the day I got to use it all. 70 kegs were crafted that afternoon, and I was well into filling our 3rd keg shed with kegs. Afterwards, I took a quick trip to Ginger Island. I needed to pop by the forge so I could combine the burglar's ring with the slime charmer ring. And after a cheeky stop into Key's walnut room revealed my percentage had gone up to 44%. And that was my day done and dusted. We are now officially halfway through this challenge. I only have 1 year left to accomplish what Sharky and I could not do before. Can it be done? Well, my friends, we're just gonna have to keep pushing on to find out. The deja vu was kicking in this morning. We're back in the wonderful season of spring. And to be honest, the farm was looking about as disheveled as when we started. It probably wasn't too necessary to clear it all, but I did anyway, because I'm a tidy Kiwi at heart. I followed that up by placing down a bunch of stone pathways around the farm to stop it from happening again. Again, it probably wasn't too necessary to do, but I did it anyway. Because I'd done all of the spring crop growing for the shipping and cooking collections last year, it meant I was able to spend today tidying, of all things. That being said, I was back to business on day 114. In the greenhouse, I picked my rhubarb and some pineapple, both of which I shipped off for the shipping collection. Then over in town, I popped by the special quests board. Neither one offered a crafting recipe as a reward, so I left it alone for this week. The same could be said about the key quests too. Nothing really took my fancy, so with no prospects in the quest department, I decided to torpedo myself down the Skull Caverns with a stack of bombs. With another successful Skull Cavern crusade under my belt, I found myself wandering into town the following morning. I could be found digging up a strange doll artifact next to the river and donating it alongside a rusty spoon I found yesterday. Thanks to all of my Skull Cavern excursions, I had a stack of Omni Geodes that I was able to trade for artifact troves at the Desert Trader. I returned to the valley with 14 artifact troves, and the total number of new artifacts to donate to the museum? 1. One stinking lousy golden mask. As much as I wanted to complain, the game had been pretty good to me up until now, so I'll just suck it up and move on for now. When I got back to the farm, I shipped off some dino mayo for the shipping collection. I made a feeble attempt at getting an artifact by slaying floating skulls in the quarry mine, but I had no such luck. But I did get a prismatic shard from a mystic stone in the quarry, and after all that's happened today, I'll take the win. Speaking of wins, my starfruit wine was ready too, and that never fails to put a smile on old Poxial's face. After kicking another round, and just before bed, I paid a visit to the Adventurers Guild. As you can see, all of the normal Mine Monster Slayer goals were now complete. The remaining goals were Skull Cavern and Volcano Dungeon related. All the more reason to spend my days crusading through both locations. Heading into day 116, I realized that I was missing a spring crop, and that crop was garlic. But you can't blame me for missing it because it's only available in year 2. I'm just glad I didn't forget about it. Then, with the thought of Monster Slayer goals still on my mind, I decided to crash the Monster Mash party in the caverns to slay more monsters. I will note the Starfruit wine money allowed me to purchase a bunch of bombs, and I was still left over with 800,000 gold in my wallet, proving that money can buy happiness, and those who say otherwise just didn't have enough money to know what they were talking about. As I walked out of the door on day 117, I was pleased to see my sturgeon had produced some roe. That went straight into one of my preserve jars. Eventually that will turn into caviar. I could be found shortly afterwards on Ginger Island. As I rounded the corner onto the farm, I was greeted by a wondrous field of starfruit. This began the process of bussing out to the desert to purchase more seeds, going all the way back to the island, picking all of the starfruit, then planting down my next round of seeds. The process kept me busy until the mid-afternoon. It was then I made my way back to the Mastery Cave. My starfruit picking had bestowed enough XP on me to warrant another Mastery level. I only had 2 to pick from this time, and I chose Foraging Mastery. With Foraging Mastery came the ability to craft Mystic Tree Seeds. These were going to be very important to grow because when you tap a Mystic Tree, they give you Mystic Syrup. I will need the syrup for shipping, but more importantly in crafting treasure totems, which is part of my plan to get that museum finished. And that all starts with planting the Mystic Tree Seeds, so I guess now we just have to be patient and wait for them to grow, which I am really good at. I swear, I'm definitely really patient. I'm not an impatient guy at all. I really love waiting for things to grow. Oh hey, you've caught me standing outside of Robin's. See, I'm showing you just how good I am at being patient. Hurry up, Robin, and let me in, damn it. I hope Robin isn't sick of building sheds yet, because I was here to commission shed number 4. Now that I had starfruit coming out of my ears, it was essential to get more kegs. However, despite the fact that she's built 3 already, it would still take a couple of days to finish, so I preoccupied my time with a trip through the volcano dungeon. Once I had made it to the top of the volcano caldera, I used some cinder shards and rubies I'd brought with me to enchant my galaxy sword with extra damage. Then I went to bed. I won't lie, day 119 was a bit of a weird one. I took myself back to the volcano dungeon for a bit, but I called it early in the afternoon. I went back home, I dropped off my stuff, and I called it a day at 3 PM. Who knows, maybe I was making up for all of the nights I stayed up until 2 AM. I guess we'll never know. I had my head screwed back on right by the time I woke up on day 120. 15 hours of sleep will do that to a person. My garlic was ready to be picked this morning, so I shipped 1 off and put the rest away for safekeeping. I'll need a few for cooking, I'm sure. While I had the shipping collection on my mind, I went and planted a red cabbage seed I had stored away in the greenhouse. And because it was another Monday, I went in search of quests. Hopefully I'll have more luck this week. Well, nothing of interest on the special quests board. Key's quests were a little better this week. I accepted the 4 precious stones quest. I had 21 days to complete it, and with all of the Skull Cavern monsters I still have to slay, statistically speaking I have a high chance of finishing this one, right? Right? I really need key gems. Back in Pelican Town, I handed over my pan for an iron upgrade. I still need to pan out 1 last fossil for Professor Snail, so any help I can get I will take. I then made a bee house back on my farm. I'll need honey for shipping and crafting. Then I did a huge geo unboxing back at Clint's. My plan now was to finish the minerals first. That way I can use the treasure totems to hopefully round out the artifacts and finally finish the museum. It's a foolproof plan, right? And hey, I got a few more minerals to donate. Progress is still progress, people. To round out a busy day, I worked on crafting some more machines and items into the night. By the time I woke up the next morning, I had some truffle oil waiting for me in my newly crafted oil maker. Not to mention my caviar was finally ready to collect. And that was another 2 items shipped off for the shipping collection. Afterwards, I took an embarrassing trip to Robin's. I say embarrassing because even after 1000 hours in this game, I somehow always forget that she doesn't work on a Tuesday. I made up for it by opening the leftover geodes from yesterday at the blacksmith. That got me 2 more minerals to donate to the museum, leaving us with only 2 minerals left to get. Alas, I didn't have any more geodes to crack open, so we'd be left on a bit of a cliffhanger for now. Instead, I charged ahead into the afternoon with a visit to the forge. It took 3 of my 4 prismatic shards to get my precious Crusader enchant, which is going to make mummy slaying in the caverns so much easier. That being said, the volcano dungeon was less of a hassle to get to, so it's where I spent the rest of the day. For whatever reason, I think for crafting purposes, I planted more garlic this morning. You can never have too much garlic, I guess. I was stoked to see more starfruit wine too. I take great pleasure in collecting and kegging starfruit wine, can you tell? Once that was taken care of, I popped by Robin's to get that shed upgrade commissioned. Then I circled down into town to give Vincent a birthday bunch of grapes. Have I missed 2 birthdays, Kent and Lewis's, since I started spring? I would rather not talk about it actually. Anywho, look at my brand new shiny steel pan. I used said pan on the dig site at Ginger Island to pan up a fossilized tail. That was the final piece of Professor Snail's fossilized puzzle. The collection was complete and I was rewarded for my efforts with the ostrich egg incubator crafting recipe and a banana tree sapling. I then thought I'd try my luck breaking bone nodes in the dig site. On the offhand, it gives me an artifact. And oh my god, it did. Would you just look at that beautiful palm fossil? When I got back home that night, I planted the banana tree sapling in the greenhouse, I added 17 more kegs to my ever-growing collection of kegs, I crafted the ostrich egg incubator, and I popped down an extra keg so that I can start making all of those miscellaneous meads, beers, and pale ales for the shipping collection. But before I knew it, we were now on day 123. I made a quick trip to the museum this morning to drop off the palm fossil I dug up yesterday, and then I wandered up to everyone's favourite bookseller Marcello. Today's purchase was The Way of the Wind Part 1. It may not look like it, but I'm a little bit faster now. I made it today's task to plunder the volcano dungeon and to slay more of those skittish magma sprites. I haven't really mentioned it until now, but you may have noticed that I've been using the ice rod trinket a lot. I've just found it to be quite useful when knocking off monster slayer goals. The following day began with ticking off more shipping collection related items, that being some honey, a mango, and a jug of pale ale. It was back to the volcano dungeon yet again after this. I haven't checked the progress, but I can imagine all this time spent here has put me close to finishing another monster slayer goal. I didn't have to wonder for too long though. It was that night I put my sword to magma sprite number 150. And that was another monster slayer goal done and dusted. My attention then turned back to the last 2 remaining minerals. I was lucky in the sense that both minerals could be found from frozen geodes. So I spent the day breaking rocks in the ice levels of the mines. And when I got sick of mining rocks, I resorted to the ye old faithful bomb method. God, this is so much easier. Before I could go and open them all the next day, I had some garlic to pick. I used it to craft an oil of garlic, which was nice to have ticked off the crafting list. I'm happy to report that my frozen geodes did not let me down today. Not only did I get some marble, which I'll need for crafting, I got one of the 2 remaining minerals. Only 1 to go, baby! When I got back to the farm, I crafted the marble brazier, which is always a relief to tick off. Then I took off back out into the valley, this time to hand Haley a coconut for her birthday. A much better gift than last year's poppy. Anyway, it was then to the desert trader for me to trade some jade for staircases. And back again in the valley, I decided to try my luck cracking open some Omni Geodes. Who knows, maybe I'll get the last mineral by sheer luck. Oh my god. That's it. That's the last mineral. I wasn't recording my voice because we have a newborn baby and she isn't accustomed to her inside voice yet, but I can imagine I said something that probably shouldn't be heard by a child. That was the last mineral donated to the museum. All that was left to find was 6 artifacts. That was brought down to 5 when I opened some artifact troves afterwards and I donated a dwarvish helm. Once again, back on the farm, I crafted myself a farm computer finally, and I finished a prosperous day smelting ores, crafting kegs, and filling more of my keg shed. I noticed a couple of my mystic trees had finally grown the next morning. I got them tapped ASAP, just gotta wait another week for the syrup. Why does everything take so long to be ready in this game? Another Monday was upon us already. That means a fresh rotation of quests. And thank the good heavens, I was finally given the prismatic jelly quest from the quests board. The key quests were a bit lame this week, but I did accept Let's Play a game to get 50,000 points in Junimo Kart, just for funsies. I came across a slight problem after this. My starfruit will be ready to harvest tomorrow, but I forgot to buy the next round of seeds before the desert festival started. And Sandy doesn't work during the desert festival, therefore I'll just have to wait until Thursday when the festival's over to get them. Look, it's not the worst problem, but I thought you should know anyway. So instead, I used today to scour the mines for that prismatic slime. Now, I have good news and I have bad news. The bad news is that I didn't see the prismatic slime. The good news, however, is that I got an ancient seed. Let's go! Donating that to the museum now left us with only 4 artifacts to find. Before I got back on the prismatic slime hunt, I planted the ancient seed in the greenhouse. I will need at least 1 ancient fruit for the shipping collection. Back down into the mines I went after this. I wasn't too hopeful because this quest usually takes me at least 4 days, but in the late hours of the night, just as I was about to call it in, I saw the glory of that color changing bastard, and that prismatic jelly was mine for the taking. Hey, not a bad way to end the night if I do say so myself. The good times kept on rolling to day 129. Another round of starfruit wine was ready to be collected. Unfortunately, I didn't quite have the next round ready to go for previously mentioned reasons. It was dumped into the shipping bin alongside a bottle of mead, another item for the shipping collection. I then mooched my way down to the wizard where I handed over the prismatic jelly, and that was another special quest wrapped up. As the afternoon rolled around, I crafted and placed down another 45 kegs, and after a bit of fluffing around the valley for a while, my day concluded at a sensible 5:30 PM. I've probably obtained the title of town creep with the way I wait for villagers to appear from their houses, but Pam did get a pretty exciting cactus fruit for her birthday. We carried the birthday celebrations onto the party bus out to the desert. It was finally Thursday, so I guess you know what that means. With that taken care of, I decided to brush off my Junimo Kart skills in an attempt to complete this week's key quest. Let's see how that goes for me, shall we? I'm not joking when I say that this was 44 real-life minutes later. I finally managed to pass a score of 50,000 points. Was it worth the pain and suffering of 44 minutes straight of Junimo Kart? Probably not. On the other hand, I did need the key gems, so I'm just never gonna play Junimo Kart ever again. That's my solution. Thank goodness all things Junimo Kart were behind me now. It gave me time to cook some stuffing. I got the recipe from Pam in the mail this morning. Today was going to be a day spent out in the desert. It started with the trading of 10 iridium bars for the desert warp totem crafting recipe, and it was followed with a trip down into the skull caverns. And I smelled like shit. I mean that literally because I had monster musk sprayed all over me to increase the amount of monsters present. More monsters equals more eradication goal progress. Not to mention the Crusader enchant on my sword was working wonders on the mummies down here. It worked so well that I managed to snag myself a max level parrot trinket. Anyway, I slayed monsters for the rest of the day. The following morning, I crafted myself a desert totem, purchased more bombs, gave Shane a birthday gift, and warped my way out to the desert again. I think you can all see where this is going. On day 133, I purchased more bombs, picked up the final mastery skill from the mastery cave. I am now a master of 5 ways, you might say, and I warped out to the desert again. I think you can all see where this is going. Again. You'll be happy to know that a trip to the Skull Caverns wasn't on my list of things to do the next day. I collected my first 2 Mystic Syrup from the Mystic Trees this morning. I was stoked to have that one ticked off the shipping collection list. By this point, I was pretty sure I'd completed all of the necessary special quests that gave me crafting recipes, which I will come to regret saying. Nonetheless, I still accepted Emily's Rock Rejuvenation quest. I mean, hey, prize tickets can still get me star drop teas after all. Over at Key's Walnut Room, I handed over 4 prismatic shards that I'd collected over my numerous expeditions to the caverns. On top of some key gems I collected with the leftover golden walnuts, I used all of the key gems I had obtained so far to purchase the heavy tapper recipe, the deluxe fertilizer recipe, and the bluegrass starter recipe. As for the quests this week, I shuddered at the thought of playing more Junimo Kart, so Key's Cuisine it was. I then warped back out to the desert, but don't worry, I was just here to trade some Omni Geodes for artifact troves. I had 4 artifacts left to get, so I was really hoping that I had a good chance to bring that number down with 21 troves. Now, not only did I get lucky once, but I got lucky twice. Well, not in that way, but I got 2 of the 4 artifacts I needed, bringing us ever so closer to having this dastardly museum done for good. I tried my luck with a treasure totem that I crafted shortly after this. The skeletal hand has a 4 to 8% chance of being dug up from the backwoods. However, the lack of space made it hard to get any artifact spots. And well, it seems my luck ran out the moment I left the museum. That's okay though, I have more syrup on the way, which means even more chances to get those last 2 artifacts very soon. To round out a productive day, I paid a visit to Ginger Island where I purchased a tropical curry cooking recipe from Gus. I finished off Emily's Rock Rejuvenation quest. I then cooked the tropical curry dish back on the farm. I crafted the Statue of Blessings, and well, I thought I would just try my luck for that skeletal hand artifact in the quarry mine. Today's been pretty insane, I'm pushing my luck now, right? Holy fuck! I got it! Okay, I seriously don't want this day to end. No, take me back to day 134. Take me back, I was having such a good day. Well, unfortunately, we do have to move onwards and upwards. I had 2 more Mystic Syrup to collect this morning. That meant I was able to craft 2 more treasure totems. I also crafted and placed down another 30 kegs in the 4th and final keg shed. I then decided to decimate the quarry with bombs because I simply thought it would be satisfying, and I was right, it totally was satisfying. The final artifact to get for the museum was the Elvish Jewelry. That took me down to the Cindersap Forest where I used both of my treasure totems. I had a 0.8% chance to get it from one of these artifact spots, but unfortunately it seems I drained all of my luck yesterday. I got to the museum afterwards with just the skeletal hand to donate. As the day turned to afternoon, I decided to run around handing out a bunch of diamonds to anyone and everyone I laid eyes on. God, I hate making friends, it just takes so much time and energy. Then I headed to the volcano dungeon, armed with a stack of bombs. I was using them to clear away rocks, but more importantly to try and find the secret note that would get me the ostrich egg. It took most of the day and a lot of bombs, but late into the night I found and picked up that very note that I needed. I quickly disappeared out of the dungeon and dug up the ostrich egg outside in the warm night air. Now, because I didn't need to incubate the egg, it meant I could just chuck it straight into the shipping bin, bringing us ever so closer to finishing the shipping collection. As soon as I woke up on day 136, I crafted myself a mini forge. Now, I had the convenience of accessing the forge from my very own backyard. I prayed to Yoba that I could get the archaeologist enchant for my hoe to really help me find that last artifact. And with just 2 prismatic shards, it happened. The legendary run just keeps on getting more legendary, folks. How does he do it? I was even able to craft another treasure totem, but, and this is a bit ironic, I couldn't access the Cindersap Forest today because of the flower dance. So that would have to wait. Instead, I handed out diamonds again, and I caught 4 carp from the sewers so that I could cook up the carp surprise dish. You know what, I think it's a good thing that went straight in the trash. Sewer carp probably isn't the best base for a meal. Later on, I crafted some more kegs. I was getting pretty close to having 4 full keg sheds now. Then I waited very patiently into the night for the next round of starfruit wine, and for 1.3 million gold, it was well worth the wait. Dumping more starfruit back into the kegs was how I began the following morning. I kinda ran out of time last night. With the Flower Dance Festival packed up for another year, I was free to enter the Cindersap Forest today. My treasure totem gave me another 16 0.8% chances at this dwarvish jewellery. And I like those odds. Nope. Nope. No again. Definitely not. No. Hell no. Still no. Nope. No. I guess not. Still not that one. No. Not that one. Nope. Again, not that one. Oh my god. You literally couldn't write it. On the last artifact spot, there it was. The fated elvish jewellery. I hauled myself to the museum as fast as I could. Donating it gave me the complete collection achievement along with star drop number 6. With the museum finished, we now had 6 of the 7 star drops. The last one to come when we eventually get married to someone sometime soon. Oh, and I won't lie to you all, that was a big relief to have that one completed. I kept things rolling after this with a trip to Ginger Island. I traded some cinder shards and bone fragments for the banana pudding cooking recipe and the deluxe retaining soil crafting recipe. I then purchased a full 999 stack of coffees from Gus. No, I am not now addicted to caffeine. I just used it to cook 333 triple shot espressos. Shipping them off will complete Key's cuisine quest overnight. Afterwards, I paid a visit to the Adventurers Guild. Those 3 days of Skull Cavern slaying I did a while back clearly paid off. I had 1 eradication goal left to go. Of course, it's the most annoying one, but never to mind. Back on the farm, I made a controversial decision to unforge my Iridium Band and the Lucky Ring. Instead, deciding to pair the Iridium Band with the Napalm Ring for maximum destruction. After the morning chores were taken care of this morning, I popped into town to give Pierre a rabbit's foot for his birthday. Afterwards, I paid a visit to Key's Walnut Room to have a quick check-in with the perfection percentage and to purchase the Hyperspeed Grow crafting recipe. The next person on my list to visit was Robin. Surprisingly, it wasn't for another shed. No, I needed a house upgrade. I was a bit stuck with what to do next, but eventually I decided to go on another diamond gifting spree. You get a diamond. You get a diamond. Everyone gets a diamond. Waiting in my mail the next day was a recipe for blueberry tart from Pierre, so I went straight to the kitchen to make it. Once again, I was living up to my infamous town creep nickname. You could find me waiting outside of Emily's place. I got her some wool for her birthday. This inspired me to then continue giving out gifts. I made it my priority to give gifts to the villagers closest to max hearts. That way I could feel a bit better about the fact that I'm still yet to get anyone to max hearts. I'm not the most social butterfly. I switched things up for the rest of the day as it was spent down in the Skull Caverns hunting Pepperexes. I got pretty lucky as I stumbled onto an infested Pepperex floor. That helped tick off a few more towards the final Monster Slayer goal, and just before heading home, I traded the Omni Geodes for Desert Warp Totems. That way I won't have to work around Pam's cumbersome schedule. Day 140 was the final day of spring, and it was spent diving headfirst back into the Skull Caverns. I'll tell you what though, it was shaping up to be a pretty incredible run. Not only did I have iridium spilling out of my ears, I came across another infested Pepperex floor, and I made it all the way to level 100, where I got Mr. Key's iridium snake milk. It's been another stellar season, folks. We're making some really good progress towards perfection now, so let's just keep this journey chugging along. The heat of summer was beaming down upon the valley once again, but like a plant in its photosynthesis, I was using it to fuel myself to perfection. Did I use that metaphor right? Anywho, after a quick tidy up of the farm, I used some mystic syrup to tick off crafting bluegrass starter. I then circled into town to purchase a poppy and a spangle seed, along with some more red cabbage seeds from Pierre. The flower seeds I used to craft the tub of flowers, and the red cabbage seeds I planted down as I'll need a couple for cooking. Growing 15 might be a bit overkill, but it's better to be safe than sorry. From the special quests board, I accepted Robin's project quest, the only reason being the next prize ticket will get me another Stardrop tea. And from Key's Walnut Room, I picked another week of Key's cuisine, because it's way easier and uses less of what remaining brain cells I have. Next on my list to complete was Birdie's War Memento quest. I went around the valley handing items to villagers, getting new ones back. Eventually, I ended with giving Willy the worm. No, not like that, you dirty-minded strumpet. But with no way to get back to Ginger Island, it ended there for now. So I ended the day cooking and shipping another 333 triple shot espressos, and collecting hardwood for Robin's project. It's now tomorrow, which meant I was free to wander back to Ginger Island. Birdie got her pirate's locket, and for my efforts I got the crafting recipe for fairy dust. Also on my list of things to do today was another starfruit harvest. The iridium scythe made the picking process just a little less tedious and a little more satisfying. With the next round of seeds planted down, I returned to the valley once again to hand out a disgustingly expensive amount of diamonds, but it was to win the affection of my fellow village people, so it was a costly sacrifice I was willing to make. Day 143 began in the kitchen, cooking up a salad, a strange bun, and some fried calamari. All cooking recipes that I'd received recently in the mail. Shortly afterwards, I headed across to Ginger Island to collect the last remaining hardwood for Robin's project. Thankfully, the dig site was full of mahogany trees. With more than enough hardwood, I handed 80 pieces over to Robin. That got me another prize ticket, and more importantly, another Stardrop tea. To keep me occupied for the rest of the evening, I dealt with all things starfruit wine related. I collected another round of it, added more kegs to the last keg shed, and chucked in all the starfruit that I'd collected yesterday. It was very easy to sum up the next couple of days because all I was doing was catching and smoking lava eels, a tried and true method of making some extra money while I waited for another round of starfruit wine. The only thing to note was the fact that I fished up another Stardrop tea from a gold fishing chest on the second day of fishing. However, when I got to day 146, I definitely needed a break. Too much fishing may lead to carpal tunnel syndrome. Get it? Because carp is a type of fish and carpal tunnel. Oh, come on, that was a good one. My day off consisted of planting summer spangle flowers in the greenhouse for the purpose of getting Caroline to 2 hearts so that I could access her tea room and get tea leaves for the shipping collection, but then I never really touched these flowers after I plant them, so that's kind of funny. And a trip to the Skull Cavern. I made it down 59 floors and I didn't get a single infested Pepperex floor today, although it was just nice taking a break from fishing, so it was well worth it just for that. That break came to an end the next day. That's right people, it was back to lava eel fishing for another day. All 3 days of fishing had burnt through many trapper bobbers and quality bobbers. However, it had brought in a total of 120 smoked lava eels. And to finish the night, I traded some more jade for staircases at the Desert Trader. I was faced with the fact that I had in fact not finished all of the special quests because I saw the Island Ingredients quest and I said to myself, oh yeah, that's right, I forgot I failed to complete that one last time. As for this week's key quests, I chose the Skull Cavern Invasion. Back in the valley, it was Gus's special day. I surprised him with an orange and a Stardrop tea. It didn't quite get him to max hearts, but my god, was he close. As the afternoon rolled around, I made a couple more crystallariums to expand my jade replicating operation, and I warped my way out to the desert to work on the Skull Cavern Invasion quest. I say work on, but I had over 100 staircases, so it was pretty obvious that I'd be finishing it today. The bonus for today's excursion was stopping off on a Pepperex floor and finally ticking off the final Monster Slayer goal. That was officially all of the eradication goals complete, which meant that we could tick off another goal towards perfection. Later on that night, I emerged on floor 100 and received my 40 key gems. And I thought I'd make use of the fact that I was so far down, so I gathered as much iridium as time would allow. The day after, I was visited by our good friend Gus. Not only did he give me the crafting recipe for a mini jukebox, I also received the recipe for cranberry sauce in the mail from him. So I crafted 2 more crystallariums and a few items that required batteries. Now that I had a few from slaying iridium bats down in the skull caverns, this also included the mini jukebox. I followed this by digging up my first couple of pieces of ginger for the island ingredients quest. 2 is pretty pitiful, but it's 2 that I didn't have before at least. I then warped to the desert to turn the Shrine of Challenge on, turning the skull caverns back into the dangerous variant. And afterwards I dropped by the saloon to give Gus his second gift of the week. And my god, he was so damn close to max hearts. Back on the farm, I popped into the greenhouse to find my ancient fruit had finally grown. Yeah, remember when I planted that all that time ago? Well, that was another item ticked off for the shipping collection. And you'll be happy to know that after a quick trip to Key's Walnut Room, our perfection percentage had jumped all the way up to 59%. Oh, just look at us go. I was unsure what to do with myself that evening. I just decided to hand out diamonds again. My supply was looking a bit dim compared to when I started, but it was all for a good cause. It was now day 150, and my day started with a visit from Leah and picking my red cabbage. I used one of them to cook a dish of coleslaw. The sweet sound of starfruit wine collection filled my ears after this. I purposefully didn't sell my smoked lava eels so that I could see what I'd make when I sold the wine and lava eels together. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. In the meantime, I picked my first banana from my banana tree. That also went into the shipping bin, ticking off yet another item for the shipping collection. I found myself on Ginger Island shortly afterwards, digging up some more ginger and handing Caroline a gift, bringing her to 1 heart. Just 1 more to go to get me access to her tea room. By the afternoon, I was back in the valley and handing Maru a birthday gift, along with a Stardrop tea. I would like to announce here and now that Maru will be my spouse of choice for this playthrough. Because I have so many strawberries left over, it's gonna be so easy to love bomb her into giving me that final Stardrop. I continued to give out gifts after this, still focusing on villagers who were close to max hearts. And as you can see, Gus and Shane were the first 2 villagers who I'd won over, with a few not far behind them. To finish the day, I quickly popped into the dangerous skull caverns to get my hands on some radioactive ore. By the way, I made 2.3 million gold from my wine and lava eels. Yeah, no biggie, no biggie. You could call me a bit of an entrepreneur. I started the next day fishing up a rainbow trout. I used it to cook some trout soup in the kitchen. I also cooked a red plate dish, some cranberry sauce, and a banana pudding. I'll admit, most of the day was spent back in the skull caverns. I really needed more radioactive ore for those crafting recipes I got from Key's Walnut Room. However, to walk away with only 9 ore really felt like a bit of a kick in the pants. Nonetheless, I did get to smelt a couple of bars the next morning, and I was able to ship off a radioactive bar and ore, which I did need for the shipping collection, so I guess I can't complain. A quick look at the shipping collection revealed that I only had 3 items left to ship. An artichoke, which I'll get in fall, a tea leaf, and a green tea, which I'll get when I get Caroline to 2 hearts. I was back to Ginger Island this morning for my regularly scheduled ginger collecting, and my future wife got another strawberry while I was over there. From the tropics to the desert, my afternoon was spent buying another round of starfruit seeds and pursuing more radioactive ore. I am bewildered to say that I got a total of 0. Oh hey, look at that, it's day 153 now. How did that happen, I wonder? I will note that last night I did craft a heavy tapper and a hopper with the radioactive bars I smelted yesterday. So at least yesterday didn't totally suck. Today was filled with more ginger collecting and starfruit harvesting. But you know how all of that goes by now, so instead I'll skip to the part where I gave Alex a prismatic shard for his birthday, which was then followed by me cooking some triple shot espressos, this time for personal use. My god, the caffeine makes me faster than a doped up Olympian. It was straight to the kitchen this morning. I had some cookies to bake and a salmon dinner to serve straight into the trash. With another 2 crafting recipes ticked off, I warped out to the desert to do some trading. More specifically, Omni Geodes for warp totems and Jade Stone for staircases. I then dug up my daily round of ginger on the island. This was then followed by some gift giving. It was a good feeling to have a few villagers on or close to max hearts. After giving Maru another strawberry, I commissioned the final farmhouse upgrade from Robin, which I did in fact need because it gives me the crafting recipe for the cask. We're moving on to day 155 because I didn't do too much after getting the house upgrade yesterday. Another Monday was upon us, and you know what that means. It took me totally off guard when I got to the special quests board and I saw the fragments of the past quest. That's because I went to check if I had the bone meal crafting recipe and I did not have it. So I thought back to when I was doing it all that time ago and I realized that I actually didn't drop off the bone fragments to Gunther. Thank God I realized this now because that could have come and bit me back on the bum later on. I then carried on to Ginger Island. I got my daily harvest of ginger, mined up bone fragments from the dig site, and I picked up Key's Danger in the Deep quest. Before I made any more progress on either of those quests, I went about gift giving around the valley. Maru also got another strawberry, but you can see that I'm making good friendship progress. I started making progress down in the dangerous mines later that evening. I was using my leftover staircases to skip past the first levels, only stopping off every now and again to snag some radioactive ore. By the end of the day, I made it down to the ice levels, which was not too shabby indeed. I was just fully ignoring the green rain the following day. It takes some true tunnel vision to ignore the call of weed whacking for the day. That tunnel vision led me to the museum, where I made doubly sure to hand over the 100 bone fragments this time. It then took me to Ginger Island to grab some more ginger, and finally all the way back to the mines, where I continued my descent to the bottom. Oddly enough, the effects of the green rain could be seen all the way in the depths of the mines. It really added to the immersion, I'll tell you that much. It was just after midnight that I emerged on floor 120, completing the quest, netting me more key gems, and giving me the Danger in the Deep achievement. The recipe for the bone meal was waiting for me in my mailbox this morning. You bet your sweet little tushies I got that crafted ASAP. This morning was spent collecting ginger, purchasing Pierre's missing stock list, giving Sam a birthday gift, bringing him up to max hearts, giving Pierre his missing stock list, buying artichoke and fairy seeds, finally getting the team room cutscene with Caroline, and planting those seeds down in the greenhouse. Overall, I'd say it was a very productive morning. Into the afternoon the day went and I found myself ticking off deluxe fertilizer, hyperspeed grow, and the farm warp totem from the list of items to craft. Then I quickly popped my head into the volcano dungeon, hoping to get a couple of dragon teeth. And well, I got them pretty quickly, so I just got the heck out of there. I needed a couple more to have enough for the island obelisk, so this was perfect. Speaking of obelisks, I decided to reuse my old cooking ingredients chest as the obelisk items chest, just so that I can account for all of the items that I'll need. And you'll be happy to know that I pretty much had everything I needed, minus a few bananas that I'll collect over the next wee while for the island obelisk. I got a little bored that night, you can tell because I got rid of the crop field and I lined up all of my rare crows. Then I re-enchanted my sword with the bug killer enchant at my mini forge, which, as you will soon see, I will come to regret. That's future Poxial's problem though. For now I woke up to a letter from Caroline with the recipe for a tea sapling. So I quickly got it crafted and ticked tea sapling off the crafting list. Today's activity involved a new money making technique. It's been a while since I tried this one out, but it was slaying monsters in the dangerous mines with Monster Musk, specifically between levels 40 and 50. With the parrot trinket equipped, monsters will be dropping gold left, right and center. I was very intrigued to run the numbers, and it turns out I made less today compared to my lava eel method. Even when I did sell off most things later that night, I made just over 88,000 gold, which, you know, it's nothing to laugh at. Catching and smoking lava eels, on the other hand, was getting me about 250,000 gold per day. And you'll find this funny, I purposefully changed the enchant on my sword to bug killer because I thought that the dangerous mines method was going to be making me more than the lava eels. So you can imagine my disappointment when I realized this. I don't know about all of you, but I'm happy to move on. Today was my soon-to-be father-in-law's birthday, and like daughter like father, he got his own juicy strawberry. Sometimes the Statue of Blessings gives you a prismatic butterfly to find for the day, and when you find it, it'll give you a decent amount of money. Mine was, well, just a bit out of the way today. And there it is. God, it took its bloody time. I collected more ginger after this, and I promise I am getting close to having this finished. You just have to trust me. When the afternoon rolled around, I shipped away some bars and monster loot for extra money, which I paired with another gold collecting excursion into the dangerous mines. I was either in denial or I wanted another crack at it to see if it really was less profitable than I thought it would be. My answer was inconclusive because, well, I didn't really spend very long there, but I will say my dump of items did get me 270 grand. At least I always had my starfruit wine to fall back on, and this morning was no different. It was right to Ginger Island afterwards to gather the final pieces of ginger. I have never been happier knowing that I don't have to collect another piece of ginger ever again. I shipped all 100 pieces while it was still on my mind. We don't want another bone fragment situation now, do we? When I got back to the farm, I made it my goal to fill in the remaining kegs in the last keg shed. That involved smelting a lot of ore, a lot of patience, and, well, most of the day. But I got them placed down later that night. We now had 4 keg sheds completely filled to the brim with kegs. If only past Poxial could see me now. I'd tell him that it was a great idea to extend the oak tree farm. Good job, past me. Day 161 began over at Clint's, purchasing even more copper and iron ore. I returned a while later with a bunch of gold mystery boxes. I opened them just for a bit of fun. The most exciting items I got were farm warp totems, some mega bombs, and a themed wallpaper. It really brightens up the space of the farmhouse, doesn't it? I gave Maru her next strawberry today, which took her up to 9 hearts. One more to go until I can ask her to marry me. I made a quick trip back home to grab some goat cheese and Robin's lost axe. Then I found myself back in the carpenter's shop soon after, making friends with my future mother-in-law. I got Robin to 6 hearts, which was exactly what I needed. For doing so got me the flute block and drum block crafting recipes. I crafted the flute block when I got back home, but I somehow forgot to craft the drum block. I can be a silly goofy guy sometimes. I then decided to smelt ores for the rest of the day, and I gave Leah her final gift. Another villager to max hearts? That's music to my ears. There wasn't too much else to do for the rest of the day, except that I turned all of my furnaces into heavy furnaces, and I caught a lava eel from the mines. My future mother-in-law had sent me the recipe for pumpkin soup this morning, so that's when I started my day cooking. She's already handing down the family recipes to me, eh? I'm already a part of the family. The lava eel I caught yesterday was handed over to the dwarf, because it was the Short King's birthday today. I also made sure to visit Caroline's tea room today, as it was the final week of the season. That's when tea leaves start sprouting, and I need 2 for the shipping collection. There was a 1 per day limit, however, so to kill time until then, I gave Maru another strawberry and I headed to the Skull Caverns. Now this is where I started to regret changing my sword enchantment, for you see when I got there, I immediately realized mummies could no longer be slayed with my sword alone, and it was my plan to farm mummies for their cloth. I noticed that they made me quite a lot of money when I did that random shipment dump a while ago. In order to get the Crusader perk back, I had to first collect cinder shards from the volcano dungeon, then, with my single prismatic shard, I had to pray to the heavens that I would somehow get this perk in one go. Holy Shit. Whoever was listening to me just gave me the luck of 1,000 4-leaf clovers. Just when I think this run can't get any crazier, I just go and outdo myself again. I couldn't let the excitement get to my head too much. I still remembered to collect that second tea leaf, which I dumped into a keg as soon as I got back to the farm. Not to mention my artichokes had finished growing in the greenhouse. That meant I could finally cook an artichoke dip, and after waiting all morning for the green tea to brew, I shipped an artichoke, the tea leaf, and the green tea. They were, of course, the final 3 items left on my list of items to ship, which means that we can officially tick off another perfection goal. I followed this achievement by placing down another 5 crystallariums and handing the dwarf another lava eel. That brought him up to 9 hearts, which was very pleasing to see. I then caught an iridium quality sturgeon, purchased another round of starfruit seeds, placed down another 2 crystallariums, and that was the day wrapped up. You don't just have to take my word for it, because the full shipment achievement popped up as I awoke the next day, and the cherry on top were 3 full and complete pages of the shipping collection. On the way through to Ginger Island, I handed Willie the sturgeon I caught yesterday for his birthday. That brought his friendship level way up, which is always welcome. I was here on Ginger Island taking care of another sensational starfruit harvest. By the time the last starfruit was kegged, it was already the mid-afternoon. That gave me just enough time to realize that I had in fact not crafted the drum block. I made amends on that very quickly. That left me with just 1 item left to craft, which was fairy dust. However, my fairy rose flowers still needed a couple of days to finish growing, so we'll just have to wait a little bit longer for that one. The last thing to note for the day, I sold off the remaining starfruit and a bunch of iridium and gold bars, which fetched me an extra bit of money overnight. I found Willie's family recipe for escargot in the mail this morning. Coincidentally, that's what I say when someone asks if my car works. Escargot? Oh, that wasn't my best one. I deeply apologize for that, but I ticked that off the list of dishes to cook. I then gave Willie his second gift of the week before warping my way to the desert and spending the day frolicking through the skull caverns. There's not too much to report, honestly. I slayed mummies for cloth, and I tried to gather as much iridium and radioactive ore as I could. Now that it has been a couple of days, my fairy rose flowers were ready to pick on day 166. Like I mentioned, fairy dust was the last item to craft. So when I did craft it, up popped the craft master achievement. That was every single item crafted, and that was another perfection goal ticked off. I celebrated by taking myself on a solo day trip back to the skull caverns. There's no celebration better than cathartic monster slaying. The following morning began with me filling my shipping bin with everything I'd collected over the last couple of days. Cloth, iridium and radioactive bars, plus anything else I thought I didn't need. You name it, I dumped it. I then had another quick peek at the perfection tracker, which had jumped up to 65%. Not a bad place to be at the end of summer, that's for sure. Back at home, I cooked up a fish stew, and I went to bed at 2 PM. Hey, I did add another 125 grand to the bank though. So overall, I'd say a very solid day. Day 168 is the final day of summer. I made sure to trade this week's lot of jadestone to the desert trader for more staircases. I then gave both Demetrius and Maru a strawberry each because both were getting very close to 10 hearts. And back on the farm, I started to collect and ship off as many non-essential items as I could. I was literally 1.5 million gold away from having enough money to buy the gold clock. So any extra gold that I could get was gonna go a long way. Once I'd sold off what I could, I decided I wanted to head into the fall season with the Infinity Sword. In order to get it, I had to purchase 2 Galaxy Souls. You need 3, but I already had one from a while ago that I picked up in the Skull Caverns. I then had to gather a bunch of Cinder Shards from the Volcano Dungeon, which took a while, but eventually I returned home with enough. I infused all 3 Galaxy Souls into my sword using my mini forge, and there it was, the Infinity Blade. I saw the summer season out watching the moonlight jelly swim into shore for another year. My goodness, we are getting so close to the end now. The only question is, can I do it before the end of the year? Or will I yield to defeat just like Sharky and I did all of that time ago? As we get into fall here, folks, things start to get a bit boring. Boring in the day-to-day sense, that is. With only 5 perfection goals left, and some of them very close to being ticked off, I'm really just grinding my way to the end now, which means a lot of days are spent doing the same thing. I'm still handing out gifts to villagers and making use of birthdays, and getting as many people to max hearts as I possibly can. Not to mention, still trying to keep the money rolling in with my starfruit wine. After almost a year of starfruit wine selling and side hustling for the extra cash, on day 171, I had enough gold to finally purchase the gold clock. That was 10 million gold down the drain, but another perfection gold ticked off. No matter how many perfection runs I do, the gold clock is always the most gratifying one to tick off. My days of profits are far from over, however. I still have the obelisks to purchase, and between them, they will cost me an extra 3 million gold. Just when you thought it was all over, the money grind continues. I got married to Maru on day 173, putting me all that much closer to the final star drop. The time that wasn't spent giving strawberries to my wife was spent earning gold, whether that was slaying grubs and sprites in the dangerous mines, turning more starfruit into more starfruit wine, or fishing and smoking lava eels for 4 days straight. You name it, I was doing it. That's not to say I was neglecting my villagers either. I was still working very hard to get as many of them to max hearts as I could. On day 182, I had secured enough funds from my wine and various side hustles to purchase all 4 of the obelisks from the Wizard's Magic Book. Down they all went on the farm: the Earth Obelisk, the Water Obelisk, the Desert Obelisk, and finally the Island Obelisk. And ladies and gentlemen and everyone in between, that was another perfection goal tipped off the list. A few days later, on day 186, Maru had succumbed to the suave nature of Operation Strawberry Love Bomb. She felt it was time to give me something back to say thank you for the hundreds of strawberries, and that something was Star Drop number 7. That completed my collection of Star Drops, and that was yet another perfection goal complete. That now left me with 2 perfection goals to complete: great friends and cooking recipes made. Now you may be thinking, that seems like a stretch to complete, Pox, because some villagers don't even have 1 heart yet. You are correct, my friends, but I set out to reach perfection, to reach the summit in any way that I possibly could, and I had a backup plan that had been up my sleeve this whole time: perfection waivers. Fizz, the guy in the watery cave on Ginger Island, will sell you perfection waivers for 500,000 gold each. Each waiver gets me 1% towards perfection, and according to my maths, I should be able to get my natural perfection percentage to 92%. That means that I will need 8 perfection waivers, times 500 grand each comes out to 4 million gold. So that was it, folks. All that was standing between me and the summit was 4 million gold. So the money grind continued. On the final day of fall, day 196, the perseverance and hard work of 10 days worth of money grinding went towards 8 perfection waivers from Fizz in the watery cave. And according to my limited math ability, 92% plus 8 perfection waivers brought us to a total of 100%. Walking out on day 197, the first day of winter, confirmed it to be true. The birds of Ginger Island flew past my screen and I headed straight to the summit. When I got there, the perfection achievement popped up. Maru was waiting for me at the top. She was probably a little disappointed that I didn't bring a strawberry with me. Nevertheless, we overlooked the snow-covered valley together, and we celebrated in the fact that I had righted the wrongs of Sharky and I all that time ago. I felt a sense of justice in the air, and I know somewhere out there across the other side of the world from me, Sharky was proud of me. So there you have it, folks. I set out to perfect Stardew Valley in under 2 years. Not only did I achieve that goal, but I even did it before the 200-day mark. I'm honestly very proud of my achievements. It might not have been a true 100% run because, well, I used perfection waivers, but that was never the challenge to do so. I just wanted to get to the summit as quickly as I could, and I absolutely smashed the goal set by Sharky and I. I believe it was by a whole 53 days, so I am still very proud. It's been the craziest Stardew run I've ever done. It has been an absolute joy and a privilege to bring you this series, and if you have enjoyed watching along, then you can let me know by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And, well, there's not much else to say, except you're all wonderful people. So have a wonderful day, and thanks for watching.